Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming back to another Velo podcast. My name is Mike. I asked some questions, but much more importantly, I have Velo tech editors Alvin Holbrook and Josh Ross with me today to answer some of those questions. Today, we're going to talk about Alvin's in-depth review of the Santa Cruz Stigmata that he's been riding for a while now, which I'm looking forward to because I've also been riding a Stiggy for multiple years now. So we're going to compare notes. We're going to talk about why this bike may or may not be the bike for you. We're also going to talk about Wolftooth's new pedals. Zach Nair has an article on the Velo homepage that compares power data from the UCI Gravel Worlds that just happened to some of the gravel racers in the Grand Prix series. So that'll be interesting. A lot of numbers there, a lot of big numbers there. So we're going to dig into that. Alvin was also just at the Big Sugar gravel race. He put together a tech video of the bikes that the pros were using there. So I imagine, Alvin, that we're going to talk about tires and gearing and wheels and all the other tech things pretty soon. Alvin, how was that? I saw it was shortened.
It was definitely shortened. The pro and elite race is supposed to be 100 miles, or 99.6 miles or something like that. It ended up being 50, and that's because there were threats of heavy storm, like rain from storms coming in. A lot of people were saying like, oh, this might turn into a tornado and that type of thing, which I had a guy from Arkansas tell me, oh yeah, we get tornado threats all the time. They don't mean anything. But
it's as someone who doesn't get tornado threats, I would be nervous.
Yeah, as a coastal elite, which is exactly what I am, I guess, living in California. Like, it scares the shit out of me. Sorry. Like, yeah. And so that's what happened. And the crazy thing is, and we'll get into it, like, the race didn't make the call to cut it to 50 miles until like half an hour before the elite men left.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
interesting. Okay. Yeah. We'll get into all that. Yep. First, Josh, you and I finally got to ride together again. Sorta, kinda, virtually.
Sorta, a little bit.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yes, so I absolutely love it, and we were all so happy to have you there, and everybody was having a great time. We were chatting about you. You were not chatting.
No, because you guys are in a Zoom meeting during the Zwift ride, and as soon as I hear Zoom meeting, I think work meeting, which means I'm not going. There's no chance I'm going to a Zoom meeting during my Zwift ride. Come on.
Okay, so I understand that not everyone wants to be on video while they're. I like at one point blew my nose on my shoulder because I was like dripping, but whatever. But the audio is so fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I have my music on, I have my music on. I'm listening. I'm sort of like in the zone. I'm not, I don't want to say I'm not friendly, but I'm on the thing to do a hard workout and try to keep up to some people. And like most of the time, dude, I was working too hard to be typing or saying anything. Like, what do you want to hear?
Typing is tough, I will say. Although I used to do it quite a bit. You do it through the companion app, which you did not know how to do, but you can do it on a keyboard.
It is convoluted.
I don't know how people.
To be fair,
you just do it on the companion app.
Yeah.
But also the chat that would have been going on in there was like a truncated version. Like we were chatting in the audio and the video, and then the ride leaders are also posting to the text chat, and there are some people that just do the text chat, but you have to kind of sit up to do that, and it's a little bit challenging, I will freely admit.
So all these years on Zwift, I think that was my first Zwift group ride. Like I've got a decade on Zwifters. I don't know what I have. I got a lot of years on Zwift. That was the first group ride I've ever joined, and it was a ton of fun. There was like 60 or 70 people. It's great fun.
Yeah. It was actually a little bit small that time. It will get bigger, especially when the weather really changes in like December. It'll definitely get bigger. But just for everyone listening, what we did was it's essentially a hare and hound. So you can either start at it's a metric century. You either start at 10:05, I think, and you do a C category 2.8 to 3.2, something
My
like that.
ass.
Watts per kilo.
Yeah.
8. No way.
You're basically at 3.2 the whole time. And then there's also a B group that starts, I think, 10, maybe 15 minutes later, and they try to catch. And the whole idea is to work together, because if people break up, then it's easy for the catching people. But I was where
as I
I thought
discovered.
you would be like bored in the slower group, because I usually do the slower group. I have done the harder group. You really have to concentrate.
I mean, I feel like I was working pretty hard most of the time in the C group. And then
That's great.
the B group caught us with like 20 something kilometers to go, maybe 25K to go or something like that. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly. And I thought, hey, Mike, you don't feel terrible. Why don't you just jump onto the back of these guys? Which I did.
Which is the point. People will
Yes.
they release the fence at that point, and they go, hey, if you want to join these guys, go for it.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And when like you sit down for your meal and like your eyes are bigger than your stomach. And anyways, I lasted about 10K on my own, trying to keep up to a bunch of guys that took off in front of me and then completely popped. I was shocked at how fast, like I backed off like 10 watts to just like try to recover a little bit. And immediately the gap went from a minute to like 30 seconds to 20 seconds to 10 seconds. And there was no way I was ever going to stay away from you guys. It was so much fun.
So I saw in your notes that you were like, I don't know if it's like that outside. But here's the thing about outside versus inside is that when do you ever have like 40 people chasing you in a coordinated group on perfectly smooth roads with no wind and right? Like
Yeah.
I think it's actually very I think it's very much the same as it would be outside. You're just in a situation that would never be like that. And the draft is serious in Zwift. When you have 40 people in a group and you're trying to stay away on your own,
Yeah.
it is crazy hard. And if you're racing and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do a breakaway. I mean, I've never been in an actual race and tried to break away like that, or like a pro tour race, like, right? But I have to imagine that it is scaled, my FTP versus their FTP, but I have to imagine it feels the same. If you want to break away from a group in a Zwift race, the effort it takes is like unbelievable. And then to hold it, like, it's just like, oh my God.
As someone who has tried to break away and failed many times in a race IRL and not on Zwift, and also on Zwift, it is so hard in real life. But I would say that I think it's also really hard in Zwift. I think the difference is that like the pack draft that you get in Zwift and Ruby and MyWhoosh and all the other ones, like it's a little bit better, a little bit easier. You can relax a little bit. There is
a stickiness to it that I don't know how, like, they can move around a little bit more, I think, on Zwift
it's
than
easier
in
to
real
move
life.
around specifically. Yeah,
dude, my watts per kilogram was higher than the group, and the group was still dragging me back very, very quickly for a lot of that time that I was away.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I will have you know, Alvin, that ride was, and I actually thought it was easier this week than last week. I don't want to give you a hard time, Al. But my zone, I was zone 4, not zone 3.
Okay.
So threshold, not so yeah. It was a little bit it's definitely hard. The other thing about it is I think for the hardest part about it for me is that it's 2 hours and 45 minutes if you do the C group to do a metric century, and you don't stop. Like there's no coasting. That like you have to hold the power the entire time.
Yeah.
And that's what really makes it hard. In the beginning, you're like, oh, I could do this. And then pretty soon you're like, oh my God, can I just like coast on something?
Yeah. I definitely realized also that I should just stay with the group for way longer. way, way longer. If I'm going to try to get away, you can't get away until way later in the thing. So, but this is all, I mean, strategy and learning, and yeah, neat fun.
And then you could now it wasn't a race, so No, it's not. In fact, if you had gotten to the front of the group, there's a fence. You can't break away.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that. The big red
Yeah.
fence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Anyways.
they don't let you break away until the B group catches. But there are some options. If you want to make it hard, you could try to start with the B group, and then once you catch the C group, you could rest, which is high risk, high reward, because if you drop from the B group, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in the C group like you did, and then you try to latch onto the B when they pass, and then you pop, then you can still drift back to the
Dude.
the C.
After I popped, it was everything to get to the finish line. It was just turning the pedals over. I'm excited for Sundays, rainy Sundays, 10 a.m. That's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I do encourage you to try and get on some audio, though. But wait, and I still want to get you to race sometime during the week.
Maybe. We'll see. Let's move on. Let's talk about some new bike gear. Alvin, you have been using Wolftooth's new pedals. First off, they have a funny name. Well, they have 3 funny names. Control, Alt, Delete. Can you explain what they are and the differences and all that?
Yeah, if you spent any time on a Windows computer in the last 40 years or something like that, you'll recognize Control Alt Delete. Like for me, like I was on elementary school, I was on mediocre Windows computers, and you have to force quit all your apps, and so that's what it is. Anyways, there's the Control, which is like a wide platform, like enduro style pedal. So it's got the SPD style click in, and then it's got a big platform around it, or a little bit of a cage. And then there's the Delete, which is the standard kind of SPD 2-bolt style pedal, with like a platform that's like a little bit bigger than what you get from Shimano. And then there's the Delete, which is kind of like the Alt, but they just deleted half of the pedal.
And that's the one that you have. So single-sided.
Yeah, I've got the Alt and the Delete, but I've been using the Delete way more because it's a lot more interesting to me.
Yeah. So I guess my first question when I looked at these was what makes it a so-called gravel pedal? And I guess one of the big things is it's single-sided, which makes it way lighter.
Yeah. So it was, I don't have the weights right in front of me. Let me see if I can't pull it up. Yeah, I mean, for Wolftooth, they say that it saves like almost 100 grams for the set.
Rotating weight.
To get rid of one side, which you're like, oh, why are we cutting weight from pedals? But also it is kind of rotational mass, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I couldn't tell the difference pedaling them. Personally, but
if you're chasing weight, you got to chase it everywhere. Or, I mean, it's just like, why wouldn't you save weight? Why not? You don't have to chase weight, but if that's the deal, then go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing. Like my curiosity with the pedal is like, okay, it's single-sided. It's not the first time we've seen a single-sided 2-bolt SPD style pedal because Shimano's done it for a long time. And they have like a discontinued pedal that a lot of people really like. I think it's called the A550 or something like that. But I was curious, like, how much more challenging was it going to be like clip in on one side? Because like one side is rounded off, kind of like a road pedal, and the other side is clipped in.
Yeah. So when you unclip and the pedal is just hanging there, does it rotate down so the clip it's like upside down? So you have to flip the pedal over with your toe?
Yeah. So the first couple rides, it did not do that, actually. And I think it's just because the bearings were wearing in, or like the grease was breaking down a little bit.
Seal drag and yep.
Yeah. But after that, it does kind of do it. Like I find that you have to like kind of try and catch the front of your foot with the pedal, just like you would with like a road pedal. And obviously with like a road pedal, it's a little bit easier because you have a bigger catch point and the platform itself is easier. But I don't know. It's pretty quick for me.
But road pedals, when the bearings are like broken in and everything's smooth, they balance so that the clip-in part is up.
Yeah. And this one does it too, just not nearly as easily because it's just not as obviously weighted, right? Like, because on a road pedal, all of the whole mechanism's on the back half if you're running Look or Shimano or something like that. And that's
Okay,
kind
so
of
the idea, just to be clear, the idea is that it will rotate so that the surface you want to mate with is up. It just doesn't, it's a little harder because it's more like circular.
I don't
Or
think that's the
explain
idea.
this.
I don't think that's like part of the design by any
Okay.
means, but that's like I don't know. I should probably ask Wolftooth to confirm this, but it ended up being after a couple of rides. It like every time I stopped, I'd look at the pedal and it was like weighted downward ever so slightly.
Yeah.
So
When I think of single-sided SPD pedals, I think of like, pretty relatively inexpensive, maybe a pedal.
Commuter.
Yeah, exactly. So there have been a lot of those things before, but this is a different kind of thing. This is a much higher end thing. It's made to be like much lighter weight. And I mean, I have two-sided time pedals, ATACs on my gravel bike. And even here in Squamish, where things get technical and you do have to walk, I don't think single-sided pedal would hurt me at all. Like I'm rarely unclipping and struggling. It's not like a mountain bike where sometimes where you're like at the top of a sketchy chute and you have to like track stand and you're trying to clip in before you roll down it. So the single-sided thing, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. And no
yeah,
pedals, I imagine.
and it's quite a bit lighter. Like an XTR pedal for comparison is like, I think it's like 320 grams or something like that.
Okay.
I've got I'll confirm because I have a set of XTR pedals here. This is, I mean, it's not nothing to cut it down. I will say, like, whether or not you think it's like more effective or anything like that, I definitely felt really cool using them. Because it's like a point of pride where I'm like, I can clip in a little bit more easily and like I don't have to unclip on my ride, which sometimes you do.
Also, they're gorgeous as long as you're talking about style.
Yeah, they look really good. I don't know how often you're looking at your pedals while you're riding, but they look really good too. And you can get them in anodized purple, but you can get the rest of them in anodized purple too.
Clipping in and out feels very SPD like, I assume, eh?
Yeah, basically the same. I will say like a little bit more positive click in and clip out. So like I found that I would have a little bit less tension on it than I would like an equivalent XTR or Favero Asioma pedal or something like that. I think the big thing though, like the delete pedal is really interesting, but this is the case across all of them. It's user rebuildable. Like all the parts are available separately from Wolftooth. So like if you break a specific spring or something like that, which I would hope that you don't, because I don't know how often people are breaking these pedals, but Wolftooth says that they'll have it and that you can buy it.
Pedals are in the line of fire too. So like I don't damage or break many pedals, although I have actually, now that I think about it.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I've gone through, actually, now that I think about it, I've gone through a metric shit ton of, not my times, but on Shimano pedals and my old HT pedals, gone through many axles and bearings and clip, like they're not SPD, those ones weren't, but the little mechanisms, because they hit on rocks and stuff. Obviously it depends where you live, right? It's pretty rocky here. So they're also made in the States. We should also mention, how much are they?
$220, and that's regardless of whether you get a Control, Alt, or Delete version.
Okay.
$220, which is more than an XTR pedal for reference, but less than an equivalent top end Look S-Track or something from Time or what have you. I have broken a bunch of times. However, I do have a set of 20-year-old like pre-XTR pedals, M959s.
Yes.
I'm not that hard on my pedals. They're still working great. I've repacked the bearings once. So for me, I don't know if I fully need the user serviceability, like a $50 or however much they cost now, like the Shimano M540 entry level pedals. Kind of heavy, but they're bulletproof. But I guess if you're looking at those pedals, you're not looking at these. The other thing I should mention, I don't know if you've already wanted to bring it up. You can adjust the axle length on these, which you can't do with any other pedal as far as I know.
Wait, so same axle, but you're using shims to move the body in and out? Is that how it works?
You just move spacers around on it.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so you can go from 51 mil to 59 mil, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need to do that, but you definitely can. And I messed around with it, and it was not that hard actually. I just used all the tools that I had here. It's just like a flat head like wrench and a couple
I'll
Allen
give
keys.
people
That
a
was it.
use case for this because I'm working on an article about it. So if you have numbness and pain in the outside of your toes, then bike fitter I met with said move your pedals so that it supports that spot better.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Pedal.
So I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff about it, and it's not that much more expensive than XTR. Um, and then I will say, like, it is a wider platform, and so like even the delete pedals, which I could feel a difference on versus XTR, and so
Yeah. That's one of the big talking points, especially with the gravel pedals, I feel like, is there's more support for them. So if you're wearing like a mountain type shoe, an XC shoe, and you're using these single-sided gravel pedals on your gravel bike, the idea is that it gives you way more support underfoot. So it feels like you're not using a road shoe and pedal combo, obviously, but it's more supportive than a little SPD thing in your little shoes.
yeah,
That's the whole idea.
yeah. And I think
But
that is the case, which is why these pedals are so interesting and
okay.
pretty cool.
Pedals are a hard one though. Like pedals are like seats in a way. You know, like now that I've got times on all my bikes, time pedals on all my bikes, it's like something big has to change for me to invest in a whole other pedal system that, you know?
Yeah, I'm the same way, and which is why I'm still married to speed play on the road.
Speed play. Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though I go through a set of cleats at least once a year, and
Yeah.
I
That's
break.
not so bad.
That's
Yeah, that's
it's
actually pretty good.
Yeah, but I'm also like I do have like other pedals here that I switch into periodically, and
Yeah.
they wear out
I get like
quicker than I would like.
6 months, less than 6 months at a time cleats.
Nice. At a
Yeah.
time
For
like
the
2-bolt?
metal. Oh, that's right. Time.
Yeah. For the
Are
2-bolt cleats.
aren't they made of like brass or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, go figure, dude. Like, I'm on my SPD cleats. I have a set that I've been using for like 5 years, it feels like at this point, and it's
Yeah.
still clipping in nice. So,
Okay.
I have
well,
one pair of SPD cleats that squeak that are probably 10 years old that I need to just toss out. But
Yeah.
other than that, they last forever for me.
yeah.
Alvin, by the time people are listening to this, I think your review of these pedals will be on the website, I
They
suspect.
will. It will, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So everybody that's listening, go check out that review and go look at the pretty colors.
Yeah. 2,000 words about pedals. Who'd have thought?
Oh boy. Hey guys, I have a question for you. What do you think is harder? The UCI Gravel Worlds or that sort of event? Or a high-end American gravel race like Big Sugar or a Lifetime Grand Prix or something like that? What do you think takes more effort?
I mean, I already referred to this last week as the Bike Path World Championships.
Yeah.
Like, I did watch some like rider cam videos, and man, they're just like, I mean, they're not coasting, right? But it just feels like a really tight road race. Is what
Just because the
me.
course wasn't as challenging though as we would like to see and not as rough or steep or gravelly, those people are still working super hard though.
Yeah, they are, but like, I don't think we'll see where you're going with this, but I really don't think you have to throw in the component of like the terrain that we have here is
Yeah.
just harder. It's just harder to put down power, especially as the race gets longer and longer, which like the average gravel race that we're doing out here is 4.5 hours, 5 hours,
Ugh.
sometimes more.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, I'm putting without knowing the answer as I say this right now, I'm putting my money on UCI Worlds being the harder one. Partly because for the same reason as you're talking about the terrain, I think it's actually harder to put down power. It's not that one athlete is stronger or not. I think there's more technicality in American gravel. So you can't just bash out power the way you can on a smoother surface.
Yeah. Okay. So For everybody listening, Velo Zach Nair has an article on the homepage right now that's comparing power data from UCI Gravel Worlds, where we had people like Florian Vermeesch, Matej Mohorič, Marion Voss, Lorena Weebs, some guy named Tom Pidcock, a whole bunch of other fast people. 181 kilometers. I think it only had 2,000 meters of climbing. So Zach took data from the third place finisher, which is Matej Mohorič. He did a bunch of work to close a big gap past loads of people. And just so we're comparing sort of apples to apples here, he weighs, somewhere between 70 and 75 kilograms. So his race time, 4 hours, 39 minutes, average power, 308 watts, 4.3 watts per kilogram for more than 4.5 hours. So if we normalize that, though, this is where it gets crazy, 350 watts or 4.9 watts per kilogram for 4.5 hours. What the hell? Wild. So keep those numbers in mind. 350 watts normalized, 4.9 watts per kilograms. And we're going to compare that to data from, I don't think I'm going to pronounce his name right, Simon Pellaud?
Simon Pellaud.
So I'm not even close.
So close.
I'm so
Just
sorry,
right there,
Simone.
He's incredibly nice, by the way.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Simone. Anyways, so we've got his data from the Sea Otter Lifetime Grand Prix gravel race. He finished 10th there, 3 minutes back from the winner, but basically the same-ish time as race time as Mohorič's Gravel Worlds. We have to point out very different courses. That Sea Otter course, especially the first couple minutes up the racetrack, the paved climb, so steep, and the climbs there are short, steep, extremely hard. So, just for some perspective, Simone did 543 watts or 7.8 watts per kilogram for the first 2 minutes of that race to get into a good place. His race time was 4:23. Normalized power, 337, which equals 4.8 watts per kilogram, which is basically the same as Mohorič did at UCI Gravel Worlds.
Basically the same. It's not the same as the same.
Yeah,
and I was correct.
No, you were wrong. You were wrong because the Grand Prix course is so much harder itself.
But the normalized power is 4.8 versus 4.9 for the UCI, which is what the question was.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that it's harder. That doesn't mean that's harder. That's 0.1 watts per kilo. That's not.
Yeah, but
that's not enough of a difference to be a differentiator. The differentiator here is that the course itself is more challenging.
Well, okay. I guess agree to. Well, no, I'm not. We're not going with alternate facts here. What the question
it's
was?
Not an alternate
who put
fact.
Down more,
it is fact.
We're putting who put down more power.
Don't you use that language with me?
Guys, Simone's heart rate. He was at 89% of his max heart rate for the entire 4 hour and 20 minute race.
Yeah. I mean,
I saw an Instagram reel recently where it was like, most people feel like they're going to die when they get to 80% of their max heart rate.
Accurate.
Yeah. Well, it's also just harder to put that power down consistently if you're getting jostled all over the place. It requires more effort to put down an equivalent amount of power. Especially the mental load if you're worried about your wheel slipping or just oh, I gotta avoid this rock or whatever the heck. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I completely agree with that. I mean, that's what I thought. That's why I thought that the power would be slightly lower for American gravel, basically, because it's more technical.
Yeah.
Part of me is a bit surprised because I think that Sea Otter course, I mean, it's not a mountain bike course, let's be honest, but it is much more like a mountain bike course. Anybody that's done a mountain bike race versus a drop bar race, a mountain bike race is much more intense and more painful for a shorter period of time. But there's also, I would suspect in most cases, more time to recover or more opportunity to recover, for shorter distances. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think?
Well, it's just it's like, I mean, that's how the human body works. You couldn't hold those powers for that power forever. So, and it's more shorter, more intense, but then you rest more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the nature of things.
It's also worth mentioning that Simon only got to 10th on there. He was 3 minutes back off of Keegan, who won.
Yeah.
Yeah, who invariably was doing higher power still. Like it was Keegan and Matt Beers that came in to like a few seconds off of one another or something like that.
Yeah. That's the one where Keegan he won and then he vomited right after he crossed the finish line.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah,
Nah.
yeah. I'm trying to
So
remember if
been
he
there.
was sick at the time or something like that. I don't doubt it, but
Wild, absolutely wild. Anyways, so Zach's takeaway here at the bottom of the article is that the winner of a Lifetime Grand Prix gravel race he'll probably weigh between 67 and 72 kilograms. He's going to average 300 watts or more for 4.5 hours, normalized 350. In other words, guys, you and I are not going to win a Grand Prix gravel race anytime soon.
Yeah. Levy, what's your answer? Which one do you think is harder?
So I'm completely talking out my ass here. I think, no surprises. I think that the gravel race, I would find the gravel race harder because it is much more intense, I think. Whereas, the Sea Otter race course, much harder because it's much more intense a lot of times. Whereas that UCI Gravel Worlds, it looked to me like, I mean, not that I could ever sit on any of their wheels, don't get me wrong, but if I was closer to those people, I might be able to sit in more, but that's less the case at Sea Otter, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the thing. There's there's more defining moments in American gravel where like you've either got the power or you're done.
Yeah.
At least in Sea Otter, I think that's the case. I mean, like you definitely had to have the power to keep up. Like from what I saw from like UCI Gravel Worlds, like there are a lot more pack dynamics in this, like in that one. Whereas that's not as much the case.
Which wouldn't bode well for me either, to be honest.
Yeah. No comment.
No comment there.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm staking my hand in the ground. American exceptionalism. This one time for me. Yep. Lifetime Grand Prix. Harder.
I mean, I just think they're very different, and I loved at times in the past interacting with European journalists, and they're like, "Oh, but we have this or we did this," and I'm like, "Dude, California is where gravel started. Like, this is the home place of gravel. We can't claim everything, but it started from road to mountain bike to gravel. Like, this is American. This is as American as it gets."
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how much longer that's the case, but what'd you say?
I've got a hypothetical question for you guys. I mean, this is the question that everybody wants to know. We saw Keegan go to Europe last year. What do you think would happen if some of these, heavy hitter, top 10, top 20 road guys came over and did American gravel racing?
I mean, have we not seen them? I guess not the top people.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw it like you see it at Unbound. You get all these folks coming in. Huh?
We didn't really see it. Like Matej, it was cool that he was there, but he flatted out. I mean, and that's part of it too. But I mean, I'm talking, what if we saw a Pidcock come over and do a Lifetime Gravel Grand Prix, or Del Toro, or like somebody who is like next level is what I'm saying.
I mean, I understand, like, that's a good question. You can kind of say that we saw it with Kate Courtney at Leadville.
Yeah, true.
She blew everyone out of the water. Like,
good point.
Could that count? I don't know. Like, I do think that the gravel, like the US gravel, especially at like an Unbound, is more than just like your ability to put power down. You got to be able to like choose the right kit. You got to be able to like if there are issues there, you got to be able to switch everything around. If you're going through the pits, you got to be able to have a team that's dialed, which like that's different if you're going through the feed zone than it is in a road race. Like, yeah, just different things there, I think.
Yep.
And that is the difference. I think there's also with US gravel, like you just have like the mindset has to be different. You can't just go out and put a ton of power down and be technically good. You also have to understand how the bike
You have
works.
to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah. And other things at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on, Alvin. You were at Big Sugar. You looked at a whole bunch of bikes and some tech gear. What were some takeaways? Give me some highlights of things you saw, maybe some unreleased things, and everybody go watch the video.
Yeah. So I kind of didn't argue, but Josh and I talked about it briefly. All the pros were on 12 speed instead of 13 speed with a 10 to 52 tooth cassette. And
oh yeah, we did get a little heated about this.
yeah, just because like my argument was like obvious, like 10 to 52 tooth cassette is a race cassette at this point, like because the riders want the range, you want to have, and then you match your chainring to where you're going to be in the middle of the cassette, right? And so like that's why you see a lot of, at least at Big Sugar, where there's a lot of like kind of just punchy climbs, like you see maybe like a 46 tooth on the women's and a 48 tooth or a 50 tooth on the men's gearing, and then a 10 to 52 tooth cassette. Yeah. So there was one person, I think, in the top 10 of either race that had SRAM Explorer with a 10 to 46, and that was Julien Gagne.
My argument was mostly that we can call it whatever we want to call it, but SRAM markets their 13 speed as their race setup.
Yeah.
And their 12 speed mountain bike rear derailleur as their adventure setup. And so I think this maybe goes back to American Gravel, where they're like, okay, but we actually need the adventure setup for these races. Does that make it a race cassette? Just because people race with it? I don't know. I think you could say that. It's just a weird way of categorizing things.
I mean, say similar argument. You can say that like, okay, well, Shimano says that GRX, like if you're to do 2x, GRX 4831 chainrings are the way to go. But if you look at all the pros, they're running 5034 Dura Ace cranks, or they're running 5234 or what have you, if they can fit it. Which like Shimano will say you're not supposed to do that because the chain line's different, But yet they're doing it. Anyways, there's that. Lots of 50 mil tires. If your bike could fit it, there's a 50 mil tire. A lot of riders didn't like. The race wasn't announced. Like the 50-mile shortening from 100 miles wasn't announced until half an hour before the elite men took off. And
how was that received with the racers? Did they welcome that, or were they not into that?
I mean, if you talked with Keegan, like, which I didn't directly talk with him, but I was around when he was saying this, but like, I think he was talking with Lifetime Grand Prix for this. He wanted it to be, and he also talked about it on his podcast, The Cool Down, which is a great podcast, like with Alexi Vermeulen. He wanted it to be longer. It's like the races are always, for him, he feels that they're always in his favor if it's longer and it's muddier, or like the conditions are more adverse. And so like he's been training for marathon world championships, which he won, like, and so he doesn't necessarily have the peak power that he used to. And so he was at a bit of a disadvantage there. And that's why you saw at the end, you saw a bunch of people who you wouldn't necessarily think would be there at the top. Like, yeah.
I imagine a very different race at that point. Like that would be some interesting power data if we had last year's full race distance power data versus this year's 50-mile power data.
Yeah.
Very different sorts of pain. I bet you this year's 50 hurt a fuck lot more than last year's Bundy.
Yeah, no doubt. Other things I was hearing, like rumors and stuff from athletes when I talked to them, like The course probably wasn't quite as well marked as it could have been, and so there was some frustration there. Some of the elites didn't have the 50-mile course on their computers, which was wild too. Like I talked with in the video, I talked with Cam Jones, who won the Lifetime Grand Prix, which is a separate thing there. But it was we should talk about that. But he uploaded the 50-mile the night before, but apparently not everyone did. And so that was pretty wild too.
Cam is an ex high level mountain bike racer. So I imagine when the race gets shortened like this, like he's got power for days, obviously, big, huge power for days.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that this was right up his alley, and it looked like it was.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the race too, like Matt Beers has a similar background to Cam Jones in that regard, and that's how he won the race. He ran it in the single track section, which I should mention the 50-mile race was also apparently less like rugged than the 100. So there were we saw a couple of flats at the end of the race, and even in the middle, and like a couple times I think like Payson McKelvey, like his chain dropped or something like that. He was having some weird things going on, but just fewer flats than you would have expected, but it definitely played into the big power guys' favor.
Okay. And you looked at a whole bunch of bikes, some big tires, tall gearing, no suspension. Those are the takeaways?
Yeah, for the most part. I did talk, I only got Cam on camera for this. I was trying to figure out if people are going to be experimenting with suspension for next year. And there's not too much of that, but there is a general hankering for a wider tire. People want, or at least the pros want, thinner casing, 50 mil minimum width, and the ability to run a slick if they want to, which there's not really any tires that kind of match that, especially if you're sponsored. There's just not enough options there. The only time I really saw suspension on a bike was Sarah Sturm, who finished 7th in the pack in the women's. She was also the only specialized athlete on the Diverge as opposed to the Crux. And she was saying, she's like, yeah, I totally made the right decision. I'm a pretty lightweight rider. The longer wheelbase helps. She felt like the extra weight of the bike helped it feel a little bit more planted, especially because most of these riders didn't plan for the 50-mile race, so they weren't super familiar with the course.
Yeah, but didn't a Crux win at the end of the day under Sophia?
Yeah, and under Matt. But I mean, she finished 30 seconds behind Sophia here.
Okay.
Love Sarah, but maybe that's not the right takeaway on that then.
She felt that she absolutely made the right decision, and she felt like the Future Shock helped her there as well. And so interesting to see. For sure.
Yeah.
And she was still 50 miles on 50 mil wide tires, Specialized Tracer, which is their mid tread option.
I think one of my takeaways from, I guess the whole season of racing is that we're slowly seeing bikes become more capable, more tire clearance, those sorts of things, which leads us into our next chat, Alvin, because you've been riding a Stiggy, a Santa Cruz Stigmata for how many months have you had this thing for testing?
Had it for 6 months. I hit up some of these bike brands and I say, hey, I want this as a long-term bike. I'm going to use it as a platform for testing gear. And and so 6 months is the minimum that I have for that. And sometimes it's a lot longer, unfortunately. Sorry, Canyon.
Yeah. Well, that's the ideal review time a lot of times. I know the internet doesn't work like this. You need to have a bike review every few weeks kind of thing. But when you can ride a bike this long, you could really get to know its strengths and weaknesses. So right now, there is a review of this bike on the Velo homepage, and it's also on YouTube, so you can go watch the video. Alvin, tell me about the sort of terrain that you rode it on, and some general takeaways.
Yeah, so I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and where I am specifically in the East Bay, my terrain is loose over hardpack, a lot of double track. There's also single track out here that I'll ride, but it's not a ton of flat kind of traditional gravel that you might expect from the Midwest. It's a lot of steep ups and long ups and steep descents where it may not be super technical, but there are like cracks in the road, or it can get chunky. Yeah, and then I do have kind of the flat stuff, and I ride that a lot, and I rode a lot of road on it too, actually, where I'd try and ride. There's one ride where I'd ride up and over the mountains into Oakland, and I'd ride into Marin County, and then I'd play around in the dirt out there. That's a lot smoother. Yeah, I did like a couple of like just quick overnighter bike packing things where you put a bunch of straps on, or strap on a bunch of bags, and
Cool.
didn't talk about that, but felt like I got a good breadth of what the bike's about.
I read your review and I watched the video. My general takeaway is that you kind of fell in love with this thing.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I mean, it kind of checks everything. Like, we sound pretty curmudgeonly at times. We're like, oh, internal frame, like internal routing, or press fit bottom brackets, or all these things that were like, oh, like, how dare you, bike companies. And this is one of the few bikes that doesn't do all that stuff, especially if you want it in carbon, because it's got like, it routes it through your hoses through the downtube, and it's guided, so you don't need any tools. It's got standard everything. It's got big tire clearance, and then there's also the handling, which I ended up liking a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah. Let's talk about the handling, because I'm also obviously I've talked about it enough in this podcast. If anybody's listened to this before, you know I'm a Stiggy fan. So I want to hear what you think of how this bike handles. Give me some positives first, but I also want to hear a couple negatives.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'll go back a little bit and talk about like the differences in handling between gravel bikes, just as a quick overview. So last week we talked about the 3T Exploro, or 3T Racemax Due, I'm guessing is what it's called, the Racemax 2. And that bike, we kind of came to the conclusion like, oh yeah, this is a road bike with 50 mil tires. And
I wrapped that review by saying it's really like an all-road bike, but actually all roads. Like, crazy, but it's not a single track machine, which is different than this, obviously.
Yeah, and so what defines that? You have a pretty low bottom bracket. The trail figure, which I would reckon that we talk about a lot. We don't talk about enough in the industry, I think, is short. So a road bike will be 55 to 60 mil if you're looking at a race bike. That 3T is like 68, I think, in my size. And then you can get gravel bikes usually in that 60 to low to mid 70 mil. The Stigmata is like 86 or something like that. It is slacked out. It's not just the head angle, but it's also the fork offset that gives you that trail figure. And so as a result, you would theoretically think that the bike is like requires maybe a little bit more work to turn in, but it also means that front wheel self-corrects more, and so it's more likely to go straight. Stability is what it is, and it's fantastic at it. Like, it's so good at that stability stuff, especially as you're pushing faster on a descent. You don't notice it as much, in my opinion, like if you're like on a flat chunky thing when you're going, I don't know, 16 to 18 miles an hour, which is like 25 to 30 kilometers an hour. Like, you don't notice the advantage as much, but as the speeds pick up, I felt way comfortable on that bike. And
more
I didn't
confidence and
specifically straight. You get like ruts, rocks, again, that self stability thing that front wheel does from the higher trail figure, especially as the speeds increase. Like, you notice that.
Yeah.
I would
describe
just add, it's also a lower bottom bracket and a couple other things, and a longer front.
All of those things in the stack, and especially the long front center combined with the shorter stem. We'll talk about that too. But the overall feeling that the bike gives me is that I'm like down between the wheels, and I have that confidence. Like, I can feel the pivot point where I lean, instead of being up high, like almost above the center line. That's not the accurate description, obviously, but do you know what I mean, right? Like, you're on top of rather than in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's the case. And you're seeing more gravel bikes that kind of give you that feel a little bit, but they don't pair it with either the longer front center or the longer trail figure quite like this bike does. So
I will say my bike came with a 70. That's a stock stem length. It's a 70 mil stem, I think.
Yeah.
And I did ride it like that for a while. And we have some steep gravel road climbs here that are 20 to even like probably 30%. And obviously way steeper single track climbs. And with the 70, it definitely requires 70 mil stem. It requires a heavy hand on the handlebars. That's how I would describe it. Like heavier hands. You need to be like, my upper body is a little bit more in tension. It's a little bit more thinking about what's going to happen. I might be sitting a little bit more forward on the seat or lean down more. I put a 90 on it, which is, there's so many stigmatas here in the Sea to Sky corridor, and ain't nobody putting a longer stem on their stigmata here in the Sea to Sky corridor except me. So I put a 90 and it completely changed it.
So did that, are you saying that kind of calmed down the steering on the climbs?
Yeah. So now when I'm climbing up, there's a gravel road here that goes up to the gondola. We call it the Gondi climb. And like my speed is like literally just barely above falling over. You know, it's so steep that sometimes I'm unclipped just because like I know I'm going to spin out. So I might as well just get ready so I don't fall over. So at those sort of speeds, the difference between the stock 70 and the longer 90 is huge. I'm much more relaxed upper body and I have much more room for air. And for me, what that's done is it's given me the best of both worlds. I could benefit from that longer front end and being in the bike. I'm a decent descender from my mountain bike background, so I'm not going any slower with a 90 than I would a 70. And then the bike is way less of a handful on the steep climb. So I would recommend put a longer stem on that thing.
Here's the thing. Not everyone is all limbs like you. As a self-professed short king, I am more sensitive to like the reach numbers there. And so like I did try a longer stem because mine, I believe, was a 70. And I just didn't love how it fit anymore. And it made it kind of suck on the road, like on the kind of twisty downhills that I have here. Like I just didn't, it's fine. Like anyways, I just didn't enjoy it with the longer stem. My solution was I actually went with a narrower bar. It comes with a 42 centimeter wide bar from the factory, which Josh would be pissed about, and I didn't love it in my size small. I just put a
42 on a size small is a crime.
But you understand why they do it on this bike, though. They do
absolutely
the turn in of the.
So you should actually explain it to you guys. Aren't actually talking about the progressive geometry, short stem, like this whole concept. You guys should break that out for people a little bit.
Yeah. I'll jump into it a little bit. So it's not a new thing in the mountain bike world, where years ago, people started making much longer front ends, but with much shorter stems. And the whole idea there is to put your weight farther back behind the front axle, but keep the same sort of position. You're basically just moving your center of gravity farther back behind the front axle. And that gives you way more confidence, basically, all the time. Obviously, you need other things to go along with that, like a steeper seat angle. That's a huge thing, especially on those. Yeah, so it's 70. What is it? 74
on my bike.
On a Stiggy. Yeah. And that is a very important factor, because if that bike had like a 72 or 70 whatever seat angle, that thing is going to feel so long.
Yeah, and you would really need to like get on the nose of the saddle with that. Whereas this, like when I'm moving my body around, I'm not necessarily moving my hips around, like my butt fore and aft. I'm trying to like physically get over the bars, whereas some other gravel bikes, I am moving on the saddle a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that mountain bikers are less guilty of this, I feel like, than gravel riders or road riders coming into the gravel world. It's easy to look at the numbers at a bike like this, and you see a head angle that starts with a 6. It's 69.5 or something with a rigid fork or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and you see the fairly, you know, the reach and all these numbers that look so different. And I think it's easy to be put off. But when you sit on the bike, like you can get your position to where you need to be. But the important takeaway here is that you're back farther behind the front axle, and that gives you more confidence. But you could still, Josh, you could still get low and aero and do all those things you want to do, but you just won't be as scared on the downs.
And the shorter stem will so the longer front end will slow down the steering. The shorter stem will speed it back up, and it's all about finding that balance. And I understand this, but it's just a different use. There's something like that 3T is like, I want to ride 25 miles to the pretty fast gravel road and do that for 50 miles and then ride 25 miles home on pavement. And I want a bike that feels like a road bike for that.
Yeah, I would argue you could do that on this bike though. That's the thing.
My question for Josh would be, put the same nice set of wheels on the 3T and the Stiggy, like whatever, some tall 1200 gram wheels, some fast tires, fast off-road gravel tires. Yeah, sure. Whatever you want to do. Make the important things the same. I know the Stiggy is heavier. It's like a 12 or 1300 gram frame, whatever it is.
Heavier.
It's like, it could be like a pound heavier than some of these for sure. But same wheels and tires, same fast tires, that ride to the off-road, you're not going slower on the Stiggy than you would be on the 3T. You ain't.
No, totally.
When
you're
it's
not.
straight.
But there is a different feeling.
Because I found I don't share this information, but I do have like all of my gravel bikes that I've ridden on the like Mount Diablo descent, the road descent that I have here. And against all the other gravel bikes, the Stigmata is the slowest on the road descent.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because I'm not used. I think part of it's because I'm not used to it. It just requires more thought to get it to the apex of a corner and out than I am accustomed to. But I also would probably say part of it's probably positioning. Like the stack height is higher on this bike than it is on other ones. And even though I slammed my stem basically, I had like 5 or 6 efforts on it, and it was the slowest. Like I improved, but it was still the slowest out of all these other bikes.
Josh, could you expand a little bit? So obviously we both agree that like same wheels and tires, 3T versus Stiggy on your road ride there, like they're both going to be whatever. They're both going to be fast. But I want you to explain to me the difference in feel that a rider might expect. Like why wouldn't you want the Stiggy?
I actually so here's the thing. If you're in rough roads, if you're in like technical situations, you want the Stiggy, right? But the difference is that that's such a small part of my ride experience that I want the really fast, like I want it to go exactly where you're pointing it very quickly without a lot of work and leaning, where you have it on a road race bike. And you really just point it where you want to go. You don't have to lean it. You don't have to manhandle the front end. You just point it where you want to go.
Less
and
muscle.
It is very, very very tight with that. I also like the feeling of, this is sort of a silly thing, but like I'm not trying to always be the most efficient racer over a long distance kind of thing. And so you're sort of doing silly things where you blow a bunch of power for no real reason, but it just feels like it's just that poppy sort of fun thing. Now, I think the Stigmata, I haven't ridden the Stigmata, but my sense from people who have, including you guys, is that it has a lot of those, like it's particularly good. I have also ridden gravel bikes, and this is what I really push back against. I have ridden gravel bikes where they were like, I kind of hated them on the road. And I would feel like I don't like this bike. And then all of a sudden you would get to the gravel and you'd be like, oh, it's actually totally fine. And I don't want a bike like that. I never want a bike like that. It's this, I really shy away from even bikes that might be like that.
Too much compromise for your particular how you want to ride. Even though there might be a 10 or 20 minute off-road section where the Stiggy is going to give you more confidence, over a 3-hour ride, you want to feel something a bit more alive, something a bit more nervous isn't the right word, but racy?
It kind of is. It is
Yeah.
kind of like you could. It's a flip of a coin, whereas racy versus nervous, right? And that's exactly what it is. And you're nailing it perfectly. Over a 6-hour ride, there's gonna be 30 minutes maybe of where I'm feeling like kind of uncomfortable and really like I remember for those who know Portland area an OMTM ride, our Mother of the Mountain. These guys are, all about doing rough rides. And I remember descending on a Cannondale Topstone. And now that has suspension, but it's a very road-ish geometry, and you feel way perched on top. You are like perched on top of this bike, and you feel like
standing on
maybe
the
you're
top
gonna, you're gonna fall over the front, and I feel really uncomfortable in those situations. But you just deal, and I'm slow on those points. But then the rest of the time, I have this bike that is really just poppy, punchy, fun to ride, and it also works well with my I would rather just point it than really have to like lean with my hips and wrestle the front end and that kind of stuff.
I will say it's funny, like when we're talking about fast gravel bikes, not many people think Stigmata. I don't know, maybe I'm making an assumption here. Like when you think gravel race bike, I think that new Cannondale or or whatever. But the truth is, what gravel bike has won the most of the most important races over the last few years? A Stiggy.
Yeah. I mean, this does bring up, to play devil's advocate here, it's also been the Specialized Crux.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah.
We'll edit that part out.
Yeah. Well, okay, we'll edit that part out. But that is a fundamentally different bike than the Stigmata is as well. I mean, I am of the mindset that I don't know. Stigmata is great. I will a teaser to Velo field test. We had an Orbea Terra in here, and in my size, the geometry is almost exactly the same between the two bikes. It's almost kind of like they copied the geometry chart from the Stigmata and moved it over to the Orbea Terra.
They should.
But the difference with the Terra is that it's considerably lighter.
Does it
It's like
have
300 grams
storage?
Lighter. Huh? It does.
It has down.
It's not as
How
good.
much lighter is the frame?
It's like 1,000 grams is claimed.
Oh, okay. So it's like 1/2 to 3/4 of a pound lighter, basically. Yeah. Okay.
And
is that enough? Wait 1 second. Is that enough? So these two bikes, this question is for both Josh and Alvin. Those two bikes, let's say they do have exact matching geometry. Are you going to buy the Orbea because it's a 1/2 pound, 200 grams or 300 grams lighter or whatever it is? Does that matter?
It's all about what you're giving up or not. I wouldn't choose the lighter weight if they're essentially equal, because that's how you've set up this question. They're basically equal. So would I save 300 grams? Well, obviously, but there's usually something you're giving up, and I don't know that it's worth giving up 300 grams. It depends on what you're giving up.
Yeah. So we had this at the field test. That was a bike that pretty early on, I was like, I'm not sure how much I like it. And without giving much away, I rode that Terra a lot more, and I was like, oh, this reminds me of the Stigmata. And I went to look at the geometry chart, and I was like, oh, that's why it reminds me.
Good reason for that.
Talking bike versus bike, that Terra for $6,000 gets you a lot more bang for the buck. Way more bang for the buck than the Stigmata does. Just because it's lighter, has more mounting points, which matters to me. It also has more customization. You can customize the paint for no extra cost as well. For $6,000 for that bike versus $6,800 for the Stigmata, with the force build kit. But it doesn't have a threaded bottom bracket. It doesn't have the fully guided internal cable routing. It routes the cables through the headset.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, just kind of
perfect.
Stuff like that, which most of the time isn't that big of a deal.
It isn't. Most of the time that is not that big of a deal. And personally, that's not a deal breaker for me. I love working on bikes and et cetera, even the really terrible parts of it. But at the same time, owning a gravel bike, I've had one bike for the last couple years here in the Sea to Sky. It's got a zillion miles on it and it gets beat to shit.
Yeah.
And it does require some love. So I
Mhm.
mean, that is a deal breaker for some people,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. I think for me, the I hate to say this, but like the threaded bottom bracket where I don't have to pull out my bottom bracket bearing press, and I don't have to like pull out my internal guided thing, or like I was able to swap out my bars super easy on this, which
I've
like
got
you
my
can.
bottom bracket bearing tool right here, everybody.
Oh, nice. No
Just
wonder
showing a
you have to
hammer.
work on your bike so much, man. Come on now.
So I am actually in favor, in theory, of a threaded bottom bracket, but I have to. I had an interesting situation because I brought it up with Scott on the Addict RC. Totally different bike, obviously, road race bike. And I was like, why do you have this press foot bottom bracket? And there's a bunch of reasons for that they do. But one of the things they said was, well, you still need a special tool. It's just a different special tool.
Mhm.
And I was like, that is kind of a good point.
It's far more expensive, dude. Like that's the difference. Having a bottom bracket bearing press is a very specific tool that costs a lot of money. Even if you were to buy it from China, it's still like $60 or $80 or something like that to get to the US. Whereas
Well,
like
you
you
don't
can
need a
buy,
bearing press.
yeah, yeah, or you just buy like
Well, but we're just saying if you're
the
going to work
spline.
on it yourself,
Yeah.
like, and that's your thing, is you're like, well, I want a threaded bottom bracket so I can work on it myself. Well, you could just get yourself whatever bearing press thing and work on it yourself just the same.
But
Just
it's
a
more
different
money.
tool. It is more money, but you just spent $6,000 on a bike that you're going to have for a considerable amount of time.
I
You're
also
right.
think
That's
it's
true.
fair to say that most people find threading a bottom bracket in, like I've fucked up some bottom bracket threads in my time, trust me. But most people, I think, are more comfortable dealing with threading cups in than pressing something in. And we should also be honest. I think the reason that these companies are using press fit anything is because it's way less expensive to manufacture. Obviously, it's not. That is the reason. It's not for frame rigidity. It's not for any other reason. It's less expensive.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I would say it is less expensive, and there's probably questions about tolerances and that type of thing. And also because you still have to, like, if it's a carbon frame, you still have to like epoxy in the threaded sleeve to make it all work, because it's not like
Yeah.
Shout out to the Canadian company that
Bridge.
threads their bottom bracket, bridge bikes,
Yeah.
that threads their bottom bracket into the carbon directly.
Yeah. I have no strong opinion on that. It's a wild.
I have ridden it, but I have not written the review yet, and I didn't have a chance to inspect any pieces of it, but it seems to be working for them.
Yeah.
As a consumer, would that scare you guys?
The carbon threaded
threads?
bottom bracket.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you touched that. This is interesting because it all goes back to what is the use of the bike. That is not, you're not beating on a bridge bike in BC. That is a high-end all-road bike, and I'm sure it's fine, right? You're gonna just be freaking careful, and it's not gonna see the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine.
weather.
I think I would probably be a little bit more cautious. As someone who has had to rethread many, many bottom brackets in my time, I've only done it with metal, and you can be a tiny bit ham-fisted with it and fix the threads and be okay once, right? So
I have memories of a piece of swarf. It was in a Pinarello threaded bottom bracket, Italian, and a piece of swarf was either in the seat tube or the down tube, and it got its way down into the bottom bracket shell while I was assembling the things, threading things in, and it damaged the threads horribly.
Mhm.
And I was a few years into working as a mechanic at the bike shop. It was a Pinarello, might have been a Prince. I don't know. I don't remember. A long time ago now.
Checks out.
And like we had Italian bottom bracket taps. Thank God.
Yeah.
And we ended up saving it, but that was the scariest moment of my life, I think.
I don't doubt it. And thankfully you had your extremely, extremely expensive tool.
Yes,
to fix the thread, to the thread tap. Yeah, I mean, just going back to the Stigmata, like I do anticipate we'll see more bikes with this geometry. Like, I don't think the road bikey gravel bike is going to go away, because there are people who have been riding drop bars entire lives, or they're not riding on particularly aggressive terrain to feel the advantages, and then they're just going to feel the disadvantages, which is something I did feel with that Stigmata, where if you're coming from a road bike, the handling is pretty different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to go to your point earlier, Mike, about what is a gravel race bike, is it like, can the Stigmata not be a gravel race bike? I mean, this is the thing with all gravel, is that there's just such differences.
Yeah.
And there is a situation where a really slacked out suspension bike is an incredible race bike. But then there's situations where you really kind of want a road bike, but got big tires, and they can both be race bikes. This is maybe harks back to the 10 to 52 or the 10 to 46. Is like, you pick what works for you.
Horses for courses.
Yeah.
Horses for courses.
I think for me in the future, like if I were to buy my next gravel bike, unfortunately, I don't know. I think it would have to check other boxes, but I would hope to have low bottom bracket, long front center, longer trail.
Here's one thing I'm super curious about. You asked about the 300 grams. Would you make that a purchasing decision? How much would you make the quality of the downtube storage a purchasing decision?
More than 300 grams. 100%. But again, that depends on what you're doing on the thing. Like, some people don't need to put a midweight jacket in their downtube ever. I do.
Right. So I do, and I always consider that this is the reason I bring that up, because the 3T, you can't get that jacket that you just mentioned. You can't get it in to that down tube. But then I consider that a negative. And I'm like, come on, guys, just like do a better job here. But at the same time, if I owned that bike and I was riding it a lot, I'd probably just figure out how to reconfigure everything. Then the jacket would go in my jersey, and then the flat repair stuff and the other stuff that I carry in my jersey would go in the down tube. And
I think that's
I'd probably make this all work.
I think that's the point. You want your tool. Like, you're not supposed to be using that down tube storage hatch a ton, which I should mention that Stigmata down tube storage hatch is phenomenal. It's one of the best that I've used, I would say.
Nice latch.
Yeah. But it's not supposed to be opened and closed several times a ride or anything like that. Like, it's designed to be there kind of just in case. And then if you can open it and close it a bunch, like, I think that's a bonus. But I'm not sure that we should necessarily hold down tube storage to that standard.
No.
I'm going to continue holding down tube storage to that standard.
All right. You do you.
But I was curious. I mean, I asked the question, so there you go.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's enough. We chatted a whole bunch about the Stiggy and a whole bunch of other stuff. I think a couple years from now, we're going to look back at the Stiggy, Alvin, and I think it'll be an important gravel bike geometry-wise. I think more bikes will follow it, but also, Josh, you're right, horses for courses. I think there's still going to be 3T race maxes out there that fit 50s and have 90-degree head angles for whatever reason.
Yeah. I'll make the prediction now that that's going to become the definition of an all-road bike, because they're already starting to converge with endurance and all-road. That's going to be all-road, and then a gravel bike is going to be 50 mil tire clearance, long and slack.
There you go. Velo crystal ball, everybody. Okay, let's quit. That's it for this episode. Everybody that's been listening, you go to the Velo homepage. You could read all these articles. You could watch all these videos. Check out Alvin's Stigmata review. We're going to have a video bike check of my Stigmata that might be posted maybe this week, maybe next week. So that should be slightly amusing. Josh, one last thing. It would be super funny if we rode bikes together and you rode my Stigmata and I rode your gravel bike of choice, and then we filmed a video about it. I think that would be absolutely perfect.
Do it.
That would be great.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. We will see you next episode.